Your mind is your greatest weapon, and how you use it shapes everything in your life. Right now, the thoughts running through your head are quietly deciding how you feel, what you do, and the results you get. Most people let fear, doubt, and old habits take control without even noticing it. You wake up stressed, distracted, or overwhelmed, and then wonder why life feels harder than it should. The truth is, nothing outside controls you, your mind does. What if you could take charge every single day? What if you could train your thoughts to give you clarity, focus, and confidence instead of worry and hesitation? In this video, you will learn how to notice the thoughts that hold you back, how to stop feeding fear, and how to create mental habits that make you stronger and smarter. By practicing these simple steps consistently, your mind will work for you, not against you. This is the key to handling challenges, making better decisions, and unlocking the life you want. Chapter 1. Notice how your thoughts shape how you feel inside. You wake up in the morning, and before your feet even touch the ground, your mind starts talking. It tells you what kind of day it will be. It reminds you of what's coming, what's missing, what went wrong yesterday, and in that moment, before you even move, your thoughts begin shaping how you feel. If those thoughts are filled with pressure, worry, or regret, you carry them like weight on your back. But if those thoughts are grounded in focus, purpose, and gratitude, your day starts on a higher level. That's the power your mind holds. It decides how you feel before anything actually happens. Most people underestimate that power. They think feelings just appear out of nowhere, like weather that can't be controlled. But the truth is, feelings come from the stories we repeat in our minds. You feel anxious because you keep thinking about what might go wrong. You feel discouraged because you keep replaying what went wrong before. You feel strong when you remind yourself of what you've already survived. Your mind builds the emotional atmosphere you live in. Change the thoughts and you change the atmosphere. If you've ever had a bad day that started small, maybe you spilled your coffee, ran late, got stuck in traffic, and then noticed everything kept going wrong afterward, you've seen this happen. The moment your mind locks onto frustration, your focus narrows. You stop noticing what's working, and everything begins to feel heavier. But the opposite is also true. When you deliberately choose to focus on what's going well, you feel lighter, more in control, and more open to solutions. That's not luck. That's awareness. You started managing your thoughts instead of letting them manage you. Every person has thoughts that drift. Some days, your mind wakes up positive. Other days, it wakes up negative. But the key is noticing the drift early. When you catch yourself thinking in ways that drain you, you can redirect your mind before those thoughts settle in. You can say, "No, I don't want to carry that today. I want to think something that helps me feel stronger." It sounds simple, but it's a discipline. You're training your own brain to serve you, not sabotage you. It's easy to forget that your mind is always listening to what you say to yourself. Every word you repeat becomes a message your body responds to. If you say, "I'm tired," you'll feel even more tired. If you say, "I can handle this," you'll feel your energy rise. The mind listens. It believes what you feed it. The words you think aren't harmless, they're commands. And when those commands repeat every day, they build your emotional reality. Sometimes people say, "I just feel low. I don't know why." But if you trace it back, there's usually a pattern. Maybe you've been telling yourself things aren't working out. Maybe you've been comparing your life to someone else's. Maybe you've been replaying mistakes instead of lessons. Each of those thoughts sends a message, and your emotions follow that message. The moment you notice that connection, you reclaim power. You realize feelings aren't random. They're built by what you think about most. You can't stop thoughts from showing up, but you can decide which ones to hold on to. Your mind produces thousands of thoughts every day. Some are useful, some are harmful. The trick is learning to pause and ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? If it helps, keep it. If it hurts, replace it. That's how you take control of your mental environment. You become the one who chooses what gets to stay inside your head. Every person faces challenges, but what separates strong minds from weak ones is how they interpret those challenges. Two people can go through the same situation. One breaks, the other grows. The difference is the story they tell themselves about what happened. One says, "This is unfair." The other says, "This is my chance to learn." Both are true, but only one leads to strength. When you notice your thoughts shaping your feelings, you gain the power to reshape them deliberately. That's when your emotions start serving your goals instead of fighting them. Most people don't realize how often they talk themselves out of success. They convince themselves they're not ready, not good enough, not capable, and every time they repeat that, it becomes more believable. The mind works on repetition. What you repeat becomes what you expect. What you expect becomes what you feel. And what you feel becomes how you act. That's how powerful your thoughts are. They create your behavior before you're even aware of it. If you want to feel more confident, start by noticing how you think about yourself. Do your thoughts build you up or break you down? Confidence doesn't come from achievements or applause. It comes from your own inner dialogue. When you start speaking to yourself with honesty and respect, your emotions follow. You stand taller, make clearer decisions, and recover faster from mistakes. That's what mental strength looks like. It's emotional control through self-awareness. Now, this isn't about pretending to be positive all the time. That's not realistic. It's about being honest with yourself and still choosing thoughts that help you grow. You can acknowledge fear without feeding it. You can admit struggle without surrendering to it. The goal isn't to erase difficult emotions, but to guide them. You can say, "I'm nervous, but I can still act." You can say, "I'm nervous, but I can still act." You can say, "I'm unsure, but I'll take the next step." When your thoughts are stable, your emotions become allies, not enemies. Your feelings are signals, not facts. They tell you what your thoughts are focused on. If you feel anxious, your mind is focused on uncertainty. If you feel motivated, your mind is focused on purpose. If you feel grateful, your mind is focused on what's going right. The more you notice this connection, the more control you gain over your inner world. You can use feelings as feedback, as a guide to see where your thoughts have been living. Start by observing your inner talk during the day. Notice what kind of tone you use with yourself. Are you patient or harsh? Do you give yourself space to grow, or only criticism? Most people talk to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they love. Imagine how that affects your energy, your confidence, and your motivation. Your thoughts are either giving you power or slowly taking it away. The moment you become aware of that truth, everything begins to change. Awareness is the starting point of transformation. You can't improve what you refuse to notice. If you're always reacting without paying attention, your emotions will run your life. But if you slow down and watch how your thoughts influence your feelings, you start to catch the pattern. And when you catch it, you can change it. You can say, "No more of, I'm choosing something that helps me move forward." It's not an overnight process. It's daily training. Every time you replace a limiting thought with a helpful one, you strengthen your mental muscle. Every time you speak to yourself with kindness instead of criticism, you build emotional stability. Every time you remind yourself of progress instead of failure, you build inner peace. These small mental choices add up, and over time they turn into unshakable confidence. Your mind can either be your best friend or your biggest obstacle. It will mirror the quality of what you feed it. If you fill it with doubt, it will find reasons to quit. If you fill it with courage, it will find reasons to keep going. The responsibility is yours. You decide what kind of thoughts deserve your attention. You don't need to control every situation in your life. You only need to control how your mind responds to them. Once you understand that, nothing outside of you can truly defeat you, because your reactions, your energy, your focus, they all come from one source: your thoughts. When your thoughts are disciplined, your emotions become steady, your choices become clearer, and your actions become stronger. Every great change begins with awareness. Notice what you've been thinking about today. Notice how those thoughts make you feel. Ask yourself, do these thoughts help me become the person I want to be? If not, you have the power to change them. The mind doesn't resist new direction, it just needs guidance. Train it to focus on what's useful, what's true, and what keeps you growing. Your mind is the foundation for everything you build. It can push you forward or pull you back. When you understand how deeply your thoughts shape how you feel inside, you stop blaming the world and start working on yourself. That's where real strength begins. Not in control of circumstances, but in mastery of your own mind. Because once you control your thoughts, you control your feelings. And once you control your feelings, you control your life. Chapter 2. Understand that your mind reacts before you choose to act. Every action you take begins long before your body moves. It begins in the quiet space between thought and response. Your mind reacts first, always. It analyzes, interprets, judges, and predicts before you even realize it. Most people live unaware of this invisible process. They act on impulse, emotion, or habit, without understanding that the mind already made the first move. That's why so many people say, "I didn't mean to react that way," or "I don't know why I said that." It's because the mind reacted faster than awareness could catch up. When you start noticing this, life begins to feel different. You realize you're not just reacting to situations, you're reacting to what your mind tells you about those situations. Someone criticizes you, and your mind instantly whispers, "You're not good enough." Before you can think clearly, you feel anger or shame. Someone disagrees with you, and your mind says, "They don't respect me," and suddenly you're defensive. None of this is reality, it's your mind's automatic interpretation of reality. And until you understand that, your emotions and actions will keep being controlled by reactions you didn't choose. The mind's reactions are shaped by experience, belief, and memory. From a young age, you start forming mental shortcuts about what things mean. If you once failed and felt embarrassed, your mind learns failure equals pain. Later in life, every time you face a risk, your mind reacts instantly with hesitation. If you once got hurt by someone you trusted, your mind learns opening up equals danger. And without realizing it, you begin living from reactions designed to protect you, even when they now hold you back. This is why awareness is power. When you become aware that your mind reacts first, you gain a small but life-changing pause, a space between the reaction and your response. In that space lies freedom. It's the moment where you can ask, is my mind reacting from truth or from habit? That simple question separates growth from stagnation. It stops you from saying something you'll regret. It stops you from quitting too early. It helps you respond from intention instead of instinct. The truth is, your mind is not your enemy. It's just efficient. It's built to keep you safe by predicting what might go wrong. But in modern life, those ancient survival reactions often get in the way. You're not running from predators anymore. You're running from discomfort, failure, rejection, and uncertainty. And the mind reacts to all of those with the same intensity as danger. That's why you hesitate before speaking up, why you avoid tough conversations, why you second-guess decisions that could change your life. The mind reacts with protection, not progress. To take control, you must learn to observe the reaction instead of obeying it. Imagine you're about to make a decision, maybe a career move, a presentation, or a new relationship. Notice the first thoughts that appear: fear, doubt, worry. Those are your mind's automatic responses. They're not instructions, just signals. When you observe them without judging or suppressing them, they lose their power. The key is to acknowledge, my mind is reacting, but I decide what happens next. That's self-mastery, separating your reaction from your response. You've probably experienced moments when your reaction made a situation worse. You said something in anger, avoided an opportunity, or gave up too soon. Later, when your emotions settled, you realized your reaction didn't reflect who you really are. That regret is your awareness catching up after the fact. But imagine if that awareness arrived before the reaction turned into action. That's what understanding your mind gives you. Time to breathe, time to choose, time to think clearly. Your mind reacts fast because it's trying to save energy. It doesn't want to analyze every detail, so it relies on patterns. But most of those patterns were built years ago by fear, by society, by other people's opinions. They're outdated. So when you act without questioning, you're not really choosing, you're repeating. Every time you pause to ask, why am I reacting this way? You rewrite one of those patterns. You move from living unconsciously to living intentionally. Think about how often you react automatically. Someone cuts you off in traffic and you get angry. A friend forgets something important and you feel ignored. Your boss gives feedback and you instantly feel criticized. None of those situations truly control you. Your thoughts about them do. The moment you see that, the world changes. You realize peace doesn't come from everything going right. It comes from mastering your inner reactions. Understanding this is not about suppressing emotion. It's about guiding it. Anger, fear, and sadness are natural, but they don't have to dictate your behavior. When you understand that your mind reacts before you act, you learn to meet those emotions with awareness. Instead of exploding in anger, you recognize, my mind feels threatened. Instead of freezing in fear, you remind yourself, this is my mind trying to protect me. That simple shift allows you to respond with clarity instead of chaos. One of the most powerful skills you can develop is emotional awareness. Most people think emotions just happen, but emotions are built by thoughts, and those thoughts are driven by the mind's immediate reaction. When you start seeing your reactions clearly, emotions stop feeling like storms. They become signals. You can work with them instead of being ruled by them. You start making choices based on values, not moods. Your life's direction depends on how often you choose awareness over impulse. Every decision, big or small, starts with a reaction. The more you train yourself to notice it, the more control you gain over your results. You stop being a prisoner of your emotions. You stop living on autopilot. You begin to act with purpose. That's how people build character, by mastering the gap between reaction and action. You might wonder how to practice this in real life. Start simple. The next time you feel tension rising, maybe during an argument or while facing a challenge, notice the first thought that shows up. It might say, this is unfair, or I can't handle this. Don't fight it. Just notice it. Then ask, is this thought helping me handle the situation? If not, replace it with something that moves you forward, like I can find a solution, or I've dealt with work. That one change shifts your emotional energy and leads to better actions. Over time, this practice strengthens your emotional intelligence. You stop being shocked by your reactions and start understanding them. You stop running from discomfort and start managing it. You realize that most of life's stress doesn't come from events. It comes from your mind's interpretation of them. Once you see that, you can move through challenges without losing balance. The people who achieve the most in life are not those who never feel doubt or fear. They're the ones who recognize those feelings for what they are, temporary reactions, and act anyway. They understand their mind will always react first, but they don't let it decide the outcome. They know that courage is not the absence of reaction, but the ability to act beyond it. The quality of your life depends on how you handle that moment, between thought and action. That's where all growth happens. When you respond out of awareness instead of habit, you stop repeating the same cycles. You stop reacting the same way to pain, rejection, or failure. You start shaping a new version of yourself, someone guided by reason, not reactivity. This awareness also changes how you relate to others. When you understand your own reactions, you become more patient with other people. You see that they're not always being difficult. They're just reacting from their own patterns and fears. That understanding builds empathy. It makes communication smoother and relationships stronger. You begin to respond with understanding instead of judgment. Training your mind to notice its reactions takes consistency. It's not something you master in a week, but every day you practice awareness. You weaken the grip of old mental habits. You start catching yourself sooner. You start making fewer impulsive choices. You start feeling calmer under pressure. And eventually, you notice something incredible. Your reactions themselves begin to change. What used to trigger anger now triggers patience. What used to cause panic now brings curiosity. That's growth happening at the level of thought. Your goal is not to silence your mind, but to understand it. It's like learning the controls of a powerful machine. Once you know how it works, you can guide it anywhere you want. Awareness gives you that control. When you realize that your mind reacts before you act, you stop blaming life for your emotions and start mastering them. You move from reaction to direction. You will still have moments when your mind gets ahead of you. That's natural. But each time you pause and choose differently, you build strength. You remind yourself that awareness is stronger than impulse. And over time, those moments of choice become your normal state. You begin living consciously, intentionally, powerful. Everything you do, every word you say, every path you take, it all begins in your mind. The world doesn't change when your circumstances shift. It changes when your awareness grows. When you understand that your mind reacts before you choose to act, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You become the driver. You become deliberate. You become unstoppable. Chapter 3. Stop feeding the thoughts that keep you stuck in fear. Fear is not born in the outside world. It grows inside your mind, built from the thoughts you feed every single day. The more attention you give those thoughts, the stronger they become. They start as whispers, small doubts that question your ability, your worth, or your future. But when you keep repeating them, when you let them play over and over in your head, they turn into beliefs, and those beliefs quietly shape your actions, your confidence, and even your sense of what's possible. Everyone experiences fear. It's part of being human. The problem isn't fear itself, it's the way we keep feeding it without realizing it. Every time you imagine the worst outcome, you're giving fear energy. Every time you talk yourself out of an opportunity because it might go wrong, you're strengthening the pattern that keeps you stuck. Every time you focus on what could fail instead of what could grow, you're building a life that mirrors those fears. The mind is like a garden. Whatever you feed grows. If you keep feeding fear with worry, self-doubt and hesitation, it spreads through every area of your life. You start playing small, saying no to chances that could change you, avoiding challenges that could make you stronger. And the worst part is, you begin to justify it. You start saying things like, I'm just being careful, or maybe it's not the right time. But deep down, you know what's really happening. Fear has become your habit. To stop feeding fear, you first have to notice the thoughts that create it. They usually start quietly. What if I fail? What will people think? I'm not ready yet. These thoughts may sound harmless, but each one adds weight to your mental load. They steal your focus, drain your energy, and convince you to stay still when life is asking you to move forward. The moment you start paying attention to them, not with judgment, but with awareness, you begin to take back control. Fear feeds on repetition. The more often you repeat a fearful thought, the more familiar it feels, and the mind confuses familiarity with safety. That's why people often stay in the same unhappy situations, the same job they hate, the same relationships that drain them, the same routines that keep them unfulfilled. Fear convinces them that staying stuck is safer than the unknown. But the truth is, staying stuck is its own kind of suffering. Growth always demands courage, but fear keeps whispering that it's better to wait. You can't eliminate fear completely, but you can stop feeding it. You do that by giving your attention to different thoughts, the ones that build courage, not anxiety. When a fearful thought shows up, acknowledge it, but don't entertain it. Don't start imagining every way things could go wrong. Instead, shift your focus to what you can do right now. Replace "what if it doesn't work" with "what can I learn from trying?" Replace "I'm not ready" with "I'm becoming ready." The mind follows the direction of your focus, and focus is a choice. Think about how many opportunities fear has cost you. The times you stayed silent when you wanted to speak. The chances you didn't take because you were afraid of looking foolish. The dreams you postponed because you thought you weren't enough. Every one of those moments came from a thought that said, "Stay." But what it really meant was, "Stay small," and the more you obeyed that voice, the louder it became. Fear-based thinking is tricky because it often disguises itself as logic. It tells you you're being realistic, that it's better to wait until things are perfect. But perfection never comes. Life doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards action. Every person you admire has felt fear, they just stopped feeding it. They understood that courage isn't about being fearless, it's about moving forward despite the fear. When you stop feeding fearful thoughts, you start creating space for clarity. You realize that most of what you were afraid of never even happens. The mind exaggerates danger to protect you, but it can't tell the difference between imagination and reality. If you picture failure enough times, your body reacts as if it's happening. Your heart races, your muscles tense, your energy drops. You start avoiding anything that triggers those feelings. But when you begin to question those thoughts, when you remind yourself, "This is just fear talking," the power shifts back to you. Fear grows strongest when you avoid it. The more you run from it, the more it chases you. The way out is through awareness and confrontation. When a fearful thought appears, pause and ask yourself, what's the worst that can really happen? Most of the time, you'll find that the fear has no real foundation. It's just your mind replaying old memories of disappointment or pain. Once you see that clearly, the thought loses its control. You can also weaken fear by taking small, consistent actions in the direction you've been avoiding. Fear hates movement. The moment you act, you disrupt its rhythm. You build evidence that you're capable. Each small win chips away at the illusion that fear created. The goal isn't to become fearless, it's to become stronger than your fears through daily practice. Another way people feed fear is through the stories they tell themselves. They replay past mistakes, thinking it helps them stay cautious. But in reality, they're reliving the same pain and giving it new life. You can't move forward while your mind is stuck in replay mode. Forgive yourself for the past. Learn from it, and then let it go. Every day is a blank page. Fear only writes on it if you let it. Your environment also plays a big role in feeding or starving fear. Spend enough time around negative people, and their doubts will start sounding like your own. Surround yourself with those who believe in progress, who speak with hope and confidence. Their energy will remind you that fear is not the truth. It's just one voice among many, and you don't have to listen to it. You should also be mindful of what you consume mentally. The news, social media, gossip, they all thrive on fear, because fear grabs attention. The more fear-based information you absorb, the more reactive your mind becomes. Protect your mental space the same way you'd protect your physical health. Choose inputs that inspire, not discourage. Choose voices that remind you of your strength, not your limit. When you stop feeding fear, your energy begins to shift. You start noticing possibilities instead of problems. You begin to trust yourself more. You realize that confidence doesn't come from knowing everything will go right. It comes from knowing you can handle it even if it does. That mindset builds resilience. It makes you less controlled by what might go wrong, and more focused on what you can create. Every person has a voice of fear inside them, but you decide how loud it gets. You can't silence it completely, but you can turn down its volume. Each time you choose courage over hesitation, that voice gets weaker. Each time you take action despite doubt, your self-belief gets stronger. Fear might knock, but it doesn't have to come in. Remember, thoughts are not facts. They're temporary signals. The mind will always produce fearful thoughts. That's part of its design. But you have the final say on which ones to keep and which to release. You can choose to feed thoughts of strength, curiosity, and purpose instead. The more you feed those, the more they grow, and eventually, they become your natural state of mind. Life doesn't wait for fear to disappear. It moves forward with or without you. The question is, will you move with it? Every step away from fear brings you closer to freedom. Every moment you refuse to feed it, you remind yourself that you are stronger than your thoughts. You are the one who decides what lives in your mind. When fear tries to stop you next time, pause and say to yourself, I see you but you don't control me. Then act, even if it's just a small step. Each time you do that, you take power away from fear and give it back to yourself. Over time, that becomes your new pattern. Fear might visit, but it won't stay long. The strongest minds are not those without fear, but those who refuse to feed it. They understand that fear loses energy when ignored, and confidence grows when practiced. They stop waiting for perfect conditions, and start creating their own opportunities. They know that courage is a decision, not a feeling. So stop feeding the thoughts that keep you stuck in fear. Starve them by giving your attention to what builds you instead of what breaks you. Remind yourself daily that fear doesn't define your future, your choices do. And every time you choose action over anxiety, progress over paralysis, and belief over doubt, you prove one simple truth: your mind was never meant to be a cage. It was meant to be your greatest weapon, but only if you learn to use it right. Chapter 4. Teach yourself to think calm when life feels heavy. When life starts to feel heavy, when everything seems too much to carry, the most powerful thing you can do is teach your mind to stay calm. Because calm is not something that appears when problems disappear, it's something you build inside yourself, no matter what's happening around you. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control, and the person who learns to stay calm in chaos is the one who always finds a way forward. Every day brings challenges. Some small, some unexpected, and some that shake the ground beneath you. When your mind isn't trained to handle pressure, those moments can quickly turn into panic. You start reacting instead of thinking. You say things you don't mean, make choices you later regret, or simply shut down. But calm doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means seeing it clearly without letting it crush you. The calm mind doesn't avoid storms. It just knows how to stand still in the middle of them. Calm begins with awareness. You can't control what you don't notice. When your chest feels tight, when your thoughts start racing, when frustration starts building, that's the signal. That's your mind saying, slow down, take a breath, don't let this moment control you. Many people go through their lives reacting to every problem instantly without realizing that reaction is a choice. The first step toward calm is to notice the space between what happens and how you respond. That space is where your power lives. Imagine two people facing the same situation. One reacts instantly, anger, panic, blame. The other pauses, takes a breath, and gives themselves a moment to think. The situation doesn't change, but the outcome does. One adds more chaos to the moment. The other brings clarity. The only difference is one learned to think calm before reacting. That's what mastering your mind looks like. Not removing pressure, but staying steady inside it. Thinking calm isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about managing what's inside you so you can handle what's outside you. It's saying, this is hard, but I can deal with it. When you train your mind to slow down under pressure, you build emotional strength. You stop wasting energy on panic, and you start using it for progress. You can think, decide, and act more effectively. Calm gives you access to your full intelligence. Panic shuts it off. It's easy to stay calm when life is simple. The real test is when things go wrong. When people disappoint you, when plans fall apart, when you face uncertainty and feel out of control, that's when most people lose their balance, not because the problem is impossible, but because they never learned how to hold their ground mentally. The person who stays calm has already won half the battle, because calm thinking leads to clear thinking, and clear thinking leads to better decisions. To think calm, you have to train your mind daily. Not only when things are falling apart, it's like building muscle. You don't wait until you need strength to start lifting. You build it in advance. You build calm through small moments. When you choose patience in traffic, when you stop yourself from replying in anger, when you take one deep breath before reacting to a mistake. Each time you practice calm, you're strengthening your inner foundation. You also need to change how you talk to yourself during hard moments. When life feels heavy, most people add to the weight by repeating thoughts like, I can't handle this, or why does this always happen to me? Those thoughts feed panic. Instead, train your mind to respond differently. Say, I've been through hard things before, or I'll take this one step at a time. Simple, realistic reminders that ground you in strength rather than fear. Calm thinking isn't about pretending you're unshakable. It's about remembering that you can always find your footing again. You might think calm is a personality trait, but it's a learned skill. Nobody is born calm. People build it through awareness, discipline, and repetition. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Over time, your brain learns to associate problems with patience, not panic. You begin to pause naturally before reacting, and that pause gives you power. The calm mind doesn't rush to conclusions. It observes, understands, and then acts wisely. One practical way to train calm thinking is to focus on your breathing. When life feels heavy, your breath becomes shallow and quick. Your body is preparing to fight or run. Slow it down intentionally. Deep breaths tell your mind, I'm safe right now. It helps you shift from reacting emotionally to thinking logically. That small physical act can stop an emotional spiral before it starts. When your body calms, your thoughts follow. Another key part of thinking calm is separating what you can control from what you can't. The moment you try to control everything, people, outcomes, the future, you lose your peace. The mind gets exhausted trying to manage what's beyond its reach. Calm thinking means focusing only on your actions, your attitude, your next step. You can't control the storm, but you can control how you show up in it. That focus brings relief because you stop wasting energy on what doesn't belong to you. Calm doesn't mean quiet, it means focused. It's not about sitting still all the time. It's about moving with purpose instead of panic. You can be active, decisive, and passionate while still being calm. Think of calm as balance, not frozen stillness, but steady motion. You don't get thrown around by emotions every time life changes direction. You move with awareness, grounded in self-control. To think calm when life feels heavy, you must also be careful with what you feed your mind. The content you consume shapes your inner state. If you're constantly surrounded by noise, arguments and negativity, your thoughts will mirror that. Protect your mental space like it's sacred, because it is. Choose silence when you need clarity. Choose time alone when you need to recharge. Choose people who bring peace, not pressure. Calm thinking thrives in a healthy environment. There will be days when staying calm feels impossible. Days when life throws everything at you at once. Those are the days you'll want to react, shout, or give up. But that's exactly when you must practice calm the most. Take one step back, even if it's for a few seconds. Give yourself the gift of perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter as much in a month, in a year? Often the answer is no. Calm gives you the distance to see that clearly. You also need to understand that calm doesn't mean suppressing emotion. It's not about pretending you don't feel angry, sad, or frustrated. It's about managing those emotions with wisdom instead of letting them take over. You acknowledge what you feel, you process it, and then you choose how to act. Emotion becomes energy, something you use instead of something that uses you. That's emotional intelligence in action. Many people believe they'll be calm once their problems disappear, but that's backward thinking. Life will always have challenges. The goal isn't to eliminate them, it's to strengthen your mind so they don't shake you. When you build inner calm, you can handle more without losing yourself. You stop reacting to every change and start responding with purpose. You stop being controlled by life and start leading it. Teach yourself to slow down your thoughts when they start spiraling. Notice when your mind begins building stories that make problems bigger than they are. Interrupt that pattern. Say to yourself, this is just a thought, not the truth. Then redirect your focus to what's in front of you right now. The mind loves to wander into worst-case scenarios, but calm thinking lives in the present. When you anchor yourself in the moment, the weight of life feels lighter. Train your mind with routines that build calm. Journaling, meditation, quiet reflection, even a walk outside. These small habits reset your nervous system. They remind your brain that peace is possible, even in pressure. Consistency is what turns calm into your natural state. When practiced daily, it becomes your default response instead of an effort. And when you slip because everyone does, don't criticize yourself. Calm doesn't mean perfection, it's progress. The fact that you notice when you've lost calm means you're growing. You're becoming more aware of your internal world. That awareness is how you regain control faster each time. Thinking calm when life feels heavy is one of the greatest forms of strength you can ever build, because anyone can stay calm when things are easy. But true confidence shows up when life gets hard, and you stay grounded anyway. Calm is power disguised as stillness. It's the quiet strength that helps you see clearly, decide wisely, and move forward with dignity no matter what happens. When you learn to stay calm, you stop being at the mercy of your circumstances. You start leading yourself through them. You become the steady hand in chaos, the person who can think clearly when everyone else is losing their grip. That's the kind of person others trust, but more importantly, it's the kind of person you can trust yourself to be. So teach yourself to think calm when life feels heavy. Start with one deep breath, one patient thought, one small pause. Build that inner peace piece by piece. Over time it becomes your greatest strength, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And when you reach that point, no matter how heavy life gets, you'll know this truth. Calm isn't found in the world around you. It's built in the mind that learns to stay still through the storm. Chapter 5. Pay attention to what your mind repeats every day. Every single day, your mind is talking to you quietly, constantly, and with more influence than anyone else ever could. What it says, how it says it, and how often it repeats certain things is shaping your entire reality. Most people never stop to listen to that inner conversation, yet it's the most powerful force behind how they feel, what they believe, and the choices they make. If you want to understand yourself, you have to pay attention to what your mind keeps repeating every day. Because repetition isn't random, it's programming. Your mind runs like a loop. It replays the same thoughts, emotions, and stories again and again, sometimes for years. Those thoughts create patterns. Patterns become habits, and habits become identity. What you think most becomes what you believe most, and what you believe most becomes how you see the world. You might not even realize how much of your life is just the repetition of the same thoughts, dressed up in different situations. Every day you wake up, and before you even notice, your mind is already playing yesterday's script. Think about it. The way you start your morning, the first few thoughts that pass through your head, they set the tone for everything that follows. Some people wake up thinking, "I'm tired," or "I have so much to do," or "nothing ever changes." Those thoughts seem harmless, but repeated daily, they become mental anchors. They quietly pull you into the same emotional state every morning. On the other hand, when someone wakes up thinking, "Let's see what I can make of today," or "I can handle whatever comes," their day takes a completely different shape. The words your mind repeats are like seeds. They grow into the reality you experience. Most of what you think every day isn't new. Studies show that around 90% of your daily thoughts are the same as the ones you had yesterday. That means if your inner dialogue is filled with worry, self-doubt, or frustration, you're reliving the same mental story over and over again. You're not responding to the present, you're replaying the past. That's why change feels so hard. You can change your habits, change your surroundings, even change your job, but if your mind keeps repeating the same old story, you'll eventually end up in the same emotional place. The repetition of thought is how the mind builds identity. If every day your mind says, "I'm not good enough," eventually that becomes who you think you are. If your mind says, "I always mess things up," you start believing it's your truth. But those are just rehearsed lines from your mental script. They're not reality, they're habits of thought. The good news is, anything learned can be unlearned. You can reprogram your mind by paying attention to what it keeps repeating and choosing new thoughts to replace the old one. But you can't change what you don't notice. Awareness is the beginning of transformation. When you start observing your thoughts, you'll notice patterns that explain a lot about how you feel. You might realize your mind constantly focuses on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. You might notice how it jumps to judgment, or how it compares you to others, or how it always expects the worst. The problem isn't that these thoughts appear. The problem is that you've believed them for so long, they've become automatic. The goal is not to silence the mind, it's to guide it, to become the watcher of your thoughts, not the prisoner of them. Your thoughts don't always tell the truth, but they always tell a story. The question is, whose story are you living? Every thought repeated enough times becomes a belief, and every belief filters how you see the world. If your mind repeats scarcity, you see lack everywhere. If your mind repeats failure, you find evidence to confirm it. The mind loves consistency. It will filter information to match what it already believes. That's why self-awareness is so powerful. The moment you start paying attention to your mental repetitions, you begin to break the illusion that your thoughts are facts. They're not. They're habits. Many people live trapped in their own mental loops. Without realizing, they wonder why life feels stuck, why emotions keep circling back to the same place. It's because their mind is recycling the same internal messages. You can't think yourself into a new life while running the same old mental software. You have to rewrite the code, and that begins by noticing the patterns. What do you say to yourself when you make a mistake? What do you think when someone rejects you? What phrases come up when you look in the mirror, or when you face uncertainty? Those repeated thoughts are teaching your brain how to feel, and your emotions are teaching your body what to expect. The cycle becomes powerful. Thoughts create emotions, emotions reinforce thoughts, and soon your entire system runs on autopilot. You wake up anxious, not because something bad happened, but because your mind learned to expect it. You feel defeated, not because you failed, but because your inner voice has repeated, "You can't," for so long, that it feels like reality. The repetition shapes not only your mindset but also your biology. The chemicals your brain releases, the way your body responds, even your energy levels. That's how deeply thought repetition affects your life. Breaking that pattern starts with gentle awareness, not judgment. Don't attack your thoughts, observe them. Pretend you're listening to someone else speak in your head. Would you believe everything that person says? Probably not. So why believe every thought your mind offers? Start questioning your mental dialogue. When a negative or limiting thought repeats itself, ask, is that absolutely true, or is it just familiar? That simple question interrupts the loop. It opens space for a new thought to enter. Over time, this awareness changes your relationship with your mind. You start seeing it as a tool, not a master. You realize that not every thought deserves your attention, and not every emotion needs a reaction. You can choose which thoughts to feed, and which to starve. The mind is like a garden. Whatever you water grows. If you constantly water fear, doubt, and worry, those weeds will take over. But if you start watering gratitude, strength, and calm, the landscape changes. Slowly, quietly, but permanently. Repetition works both ways. The same way your mind learned to repeat negativity, it can learn to repeat strength. You can deliberately create new mental loops, ones that empower instead of drain you. Start small. Replace "I can't handle this" with "I'll take it one step at a time." Replace "nothing ever works for me" with "I'm still learning how to make it work." The goal isn't fake positivity, it's conscious direction. You're not lying to yourself, you're choosing which voice you want to strengthen. Think about how often your mind repeats self-criticism compared to self-respect. How many times a day do you remind yourself of your failures, and how rarely do you acknowledge your growth? Your mind becomes what it practices. If it practices criticism, you'll always feel behind. If it practices compassion, you'll start feeling grounded even in struggle. The repetition of gentle, realistic thoughts rewires your nervous system toward peace instead of pressure. When you pay attention to your mental repetitions, you'll also notice how much your environment influences the people you talk to, the media you consume, the conversations you engage in. They all echo inside your head long after they end. You might think your thoughts are private, but they're shaped by everything you expose yourself to. That's why it's essential to be intentional with what enters your mind. If you surround yourself with negativity, your inner voice will mirror it. But if you fill your days with growth, learning, and reflection, your thoughts begin to shift naturally. Awareness doesn't mean your mind will suddenly stop repeating old patterns. It means you'll notice them sooner and respond differently. Instead of being pulled into self-doubt, you'll say, "That's an old story. I don't need to believe it today." Instead of spiraling into worry, you'll pause and remind yourself, "My thoughts are just thoughts. They're not predictions." Each time you interrupt an old loop, you weaken its power. Each time you replace it with a new empowering thought, you strengthen a new neural path. That's how mental rewiring happens. Not overnight, but through repetition in the opposite direction. This process isn't about forcing your mind to be positive. It's about becoming conscious. When you're conscious, you have choice. You can see which thoughts lead to peace and which lead to pain. You can decide what deserves your attention and what doesn't. You begin to recognize your own mental language, the words, phrases, and tones that shape your identity. The more aware you become, the less control the old loops have over you. Pay attention to the emotional tone of your thoughts. Some thoughts sound neutral but carry an emotional weight that slowly erodes your energy. Quiet self-blame, subtle fear, hidden shame. These are the silent loops that keep people stuck. They don't shout, they whisper, but those whispers run your life if you don't listen carefully. Learning to notice them is like turning on a light in a room you didn't realize was dark. Suddenly, you see what's been influencing you all along. Your repeated thoughts are the language your subconscious uses to tell you what it believes. If you want to change your life, you must change that language. You can't speak the words of doubt and expect to live with confidence. You can't repeat the words of limitation and expect to experience freedom. The voice inside you must align with the future you want to build, not the past you've been living. Every time you catch yourself repeating an old thought, you have a choice. Repeat it again, or rewrite it. Over time, as you keep paying attention, you'll begin to see your mind more clearly. You'll notice which thoughts belong to fear, which belong to memory, and which come from wisdom. You'll realize you don't have to obey every mental command. You can listen, observe, and then decide. That decision, that tiny gap between thought and reaction, is where your power lives. Eventually, this awareness turns into inner freedom. You stop being dragged by the noise in your head. You stop mistaking every thought for truth. You begin living intentionally, not habitually. You start choosing what to think, how to feel, and what to focus on. That's how transformation happens. Not by changing everything around you, but by changing what your mind repeats within you. So pay attention to what your mind says when no one is listening. Notice the words, the tone, the stories it loves to replay. Because your mind is always rehearsing something, make sure it's rehearsing the life you want to live, not the one you're trying to outgrow. Every repeated thought is either reinforcing your old self or building your new one. Choose wisely, because whatever your mind repeats every day, your life eventually becomes. Chapter 6. Challenge the voice that keeps telling you you're not enough. There is a voice inside every person that whispers doubt, that quietly tells you that you're not enough. It may appear softly at first, almost like a background noise, but over time it can grow into a steady drumbeat that influences every decision, every action, and every feeling. That voice can make you question your worth, your abilities, and even your dreams. It can convince you to settle for less, to avoid opportunities, and to hide from challenges. The most important thing you can do is not to silence it immediately, but to recognize it for what it is, a habit of thought, not a fact. This voice is persistent because it has been fed for years, from childhood, from experiences, from society, and even from your own self-judgments. It has been given attention, and attention is how thoughts gain strength. When you let it speak unchecked, it becomes familiar, and the mind mistakes familiarity for truth. It starts to feel natural to believe you are lacking in some way, that you are not capable, or that you will fail before even trying. But nothing about that voice is inherently true. It is a learned pattern, and patterns can be broken. Challenging this voice begins with awareness. You must first notice when it appears, what it says, and how it makes you feel. Often the thoughts sound automatic. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'll fail. At first, they may seem convincing because your mind has repeated them so many times that they feel like reality. But reality is not what you think automatically, it is what you consciously choose. Recognizing the voice as just one perspective, and not the final truth, is the first step in taking back control. The second step is questioning the voice. Ask yourself, is this really true? Do I have evidence that supports this, or is it just an old thought pattern? Most of the time, you'll find that there is little to no actual evidence. Life doesn't prove you unworthy. Your mind is replaying stories from the past or comparisons to others. By examining these statements logically, you disrupt their power. You create space between the thought and your reaction, and in that space lies your strength. It's also important to notice how this voice affects your behavior. When you believe you're not enough, you hold back, you avoid challenges, stop pursuing goals, or settle for mediocrity. You may even overcompensate in some areas to prove your worth to others, but internally, the feeling of inadequacy remains. Recognizing the behavior tied to this voice helps you understand the cost of listening to it. Every time you act out of fear of being not enough, you reinforce the very story you want to challenge. Challenging the voice requires active confrontation. When it speaks, you respond, not with anger, not with judgment, but with fact and action. You can say to yourself, I may feel this way, but feeling is not fact. I have skills. I have accomplished things. I am capable of more than this thought suggests. Replace the old narrative with one that acknowledges reality while pointing toward growth. Action is critical. Thoughts alone are insufficient. When you take steps aligned with your true abilities and desires, you give evidence to your mind that the voice is wrong. Building confidence also involves feeding the mind with repeated affirmations of your worth. The voice of doubt thrives in silence. If your mind is never told otherwise, it continues unchecked. Consciously replace negative thoughts with positive, realistic statements. I am learning. I am capable. I can improve. I am enough as I am right now. Repetition is key here, not empty optimism. The more you remind yourself of your real strength and past successes, the more your brain begins to internalize a new belief system. Another technique is reflection on past victory. Often the voice of not enough ignores the evidence that contradicts it. Take time to review moments when you succeeded, when you faced challenges, when you exceeded your expectations. Keep a mental or written list of achievements, however small, and revisit them regularly. These reminders create a foundation that challenges the voice every time it arises. You show your mind that capability and worth exist independently of its criticism. You must also recognize the emotional triggers that strengthen this voice. Sometimes it becomes louder when you're tired, stressed, or uncertain. Other times, it is amplified by comparison to others. Awareness of these triggers allows you to prepare and respond intentionally rather than react automatically. By building mental resilience through consistent practice, you reduce the power of the voice over time. It becomes another thought in the mind rather than a tyrant controlling your choices. Social context plays a role as well. The people you surround yourself with can either feed or weaken the voice of doubt. Negative, critical, or judgmental individuals often amplify internal voices that say you're not enough. Conversely, supportive, encouraging, and constructive people can help you challenge and quiet that voice. Carefully choosing who you spend time with reinforces the mindset you want to cultivate and ensures that external influences don't reinforce internal limitations. Imagine making decisions without hesitation, speaking your mind without fear, and stepping into opportunities without seeking permission from doubt. This mental rehearsal strengthens neural pathways, making real-life action easier. Every time you act in accordance with this visualization, the voice loses credibility because you provide tangible evidence that it is inaccurate. Consistency is essential. The voice will not disappear overnight. It may return in new forms or in familiar ways. The key is persistence. Each time you challenge it, each time you replace its statements with reality-based truths and take aligned action, you weaken its hold. Over time, the mind rewires itself. What once felt impossible to believe, your competence, your worth, your strength, becomes your default perception. You also need to develop self-compassion. Often the voice of not enough is harsh and relentless, yet responding with harshness toward yourself only fuels it. Treat yourself as you would a friend, learning a new skill. Acknowledge mistakes without judgment, celebrate small victories, and understand that growth is gradual. Compassion gives your mind an alternative to criticism, allowing you to build confidence steadily. Physical action reinforces mental change. When you push your boundaries despite the voice, whether through learning, creating, or speaking up, you build undeniable evidence of your ability. Each small step reinforces the reality that you are more capable than the voice suggests. Action transforms abstract belief into lived proof, weakening the voice's influence over your thoughts and emotions. It's also essential to track progress. Keep a journal of instances when you noticed the voice, challenged it, and acted anyway. Documenting these moments allows you to see patterns and progress. The mind responds strongly to evidence, and by recording these successes, you reinforce new mental habits. Over time, reviewing these entries reminds you of your resilience and ability to act despite doubt. The voice that says you're not enough often thrives in isolation. When you share your goals and struggles with trusted individuals, the perspective of others can provide reality checks and encouragement. Feedback, when sought from supportive sources, helps you measure what is true versus what is fear or habit. Isolation allows the voice to dominate. Connection challenges it. Gratitude is another strategy. When you actively focus on what you have accomplished, the skills you possess, and the support available to you, the voice of inadequacy shrinks. Gratitude shifts the mind from lack to abundance. It does not ignore challenges, but reminds you that you have resources, skills, and strength to navigate them. The voice of not enough often disguises itself as humility or realism. You may hear it as "I don't want to overestimate myself," or "I'm just being practical." Be cautious of these disguises. True humility acknowledges growth and room to improve without eroding self-worth. Realistic thinking balances potential and limitations without paralyzing action. Learn to differentiate self-reflection from self-sabotage. Finally, remember that challenging this voice is a daily practice. Each day presents new situations where it will try to surface. What matters is consistency in awareness, confrontation, and aligned action. The mind gradually learns which voice it should amplify. Your consistent effort teaches the brain that you are competent, capable, and worthy. Every repeated challenge reinforces new neural pathways and weakens old ones. Challenging the voice that tells you you're not enough is not an act of arrogance or denial. It is an act of truth. The truth that you are capable, that you have strength, and that your worth is not dictated by fleeting thoughts or old patterns. Each time you confront it, replace its statements with facts, and take meaningful action, you reclaim power over your mind. Over time, what once held you back becomes fuel for growth. The voice may whisper, but your evidence and action roar. The more consistently you challenge it, the more freedom, confidence, and clarity you gain. It is a process of observation, confrontation, action, reflection. The voice does not disappear completely, but it becomes manageable. It no longer controls your life or defines your choices. You learn to navigate opportunities, challenges, and decisions with self-assurance, because your reality is built on evidence and action, not on outdated fear. Your mind becomes your ally rather than your jailer, and the whisper of inadequacy is met with the clarity of truth. You are enough, capable, and growing every day. Chapter 7. Create new thoughts that make you feel safe and strong. Every person has a constant stream of thoughts running through their mind, some helpful, some harmful. Many people don't realize that these thoughts shape how they feel, how they act, and the life they create. When your thoughts make you feel unsafe, anxious, or weak, your body reacts accordingly. Stress increases, energy decreases, and your ability to act decisively diminishes. On the other hand, when your thoughts make you feel safe and strong, your body relaxes, your focus improves, and you gain the confidence to face challenges. The mind is always producing content, but you can guide it. You can consciously create thoughts that support your well-being, increase your resilience, and strengthen your confidence. This is a skill that can be learned, practiced, and refined over time, and it is one of the most powerful tools for shaping a life of freedom and control. Creating new thoughts starts with awareness. Before you can build something new, you need to understand what is already present. Pay attention to the recurring thoughts that appear during your day. Notice the moments when your mind produces worry, fear, or self-doubt. Ask yourself which thoughts are keeping you stuck and which ones are contributing to clarity and strength. Many people go through life without noticing these patterns. They react automatically, allowing old, unhelpful thoughts to dictate their emotions and actions. Awareness alone begins to weaken unhelpful patterns because it brings them into conscious view. When you clearly identify what is not serving you, you can make deliberate choices about what to replace it with. The next step is intention. Once you know which thoughts make you feel unsafe or weak, you can begin intentionally crafting new ones. These thoughts should be realistic, grounded in truth, and directed toward your well-being. For example, instead of thinking, "I will fail if I try this," you could think, "I can handle challenges and learn as I go." Instead of believing, "I'm not strong enough to deal with this," you can think, "I have the resources and ability to face this situation." The goal is not to deceive yourself with false optimism, but to consciously produce thoughts that strengthen your emotional state and prepare you to act effectively. Consistency is critical. New thoughts need repetition to take root. The mind is like a muscle. The more you practice creating empowering thoughts, the more natural it becomes. Each time you notice a negative or unsafe thought, replace it with one that makes you feel secure and capable. Over time, your brain begins to accept these thoughts as normal, and your emotional responses change accordingly. This practice rewires the mental habits that have held you back, allowing you to respond to life from a place of confidence instead of fear. Visualization is a powerful technique to support this process. Imagine yourself acting and feeling in the way you desire. Picture calmness, confidence, and strength flowing through you as you face challenges. When you pair mental creation with visualization, your mind becomes familiar with the sensations of safety and empowerment. This practice reinforces new neural pathways and strengthens the connection between thought and emotional experience. You begin to feel what it is like to operate from a state of strength before situations occur, making it easier to act with confidence in reality. Language matters. The words you use in your internal dialogue have a profound effect on how you feel. Negative words trigger fear, tension, and doubt. Words that are supportive, precise, and realistic promote security and clarity. Pay attention to the language of your thoughts. Replace vague or critical phrases with clear, affirming statements. Instead of "I can't handle this," try "I am capable and learning." Instead of "This is too much," try "I will approach this step by step and maintain control." Thought creation is as much about wording as it is about content. The right words can trigger calm and strength in the body immediately. Environment influences thought creation. Surrounding yourself with stimuli that support strength and safety makes this practice more effective. Listen to voices, read materials, and engage in conversations that reinforce resilience and empowerment. Conversely, repeated exposure to negative, fear-driven, or doubtful messages can weaken your efforts. Creating new thoughts requires a foundation, and your environment plays a crucial role in establishing it. The more intentional you are about what you consume mentally and emotionally, the more your new thoughts can flourish and dominate. Emotion and sensation are linked to thought. When you create a new thought, notice how it feels in your body. Thoughts that make you feel safe and strong often trigger physical sensations, such as calmness, steadiness, and alertness. Pay attention to these sensations and use them as feedback. If a thought does not create a sense of security or empowerment, adjust it. This is not about ignoring challenges or pretending they don't exist, but about training your mind to produce responses that prepare you for action rather than panic. Over time, your body will respond automatically to these new thoughts, reinforcing their impact. Journaling is an effective tool to reinforce thought creation. Write down the unsafe or weak thoughts that appear each day and deliberately craft replacement thoughts. Reading and revising these entries strengthens your mind's ability to produce constructive internal dialogue. Documenting your progress also allows you to reflect on the changes over time, giving concrete evidence of how thought creation can influence emotional state and behavior. Seeing your own growth builds confidence and encourages further practice. Action strengthens thought. New thoughts are powerful, but they are even stronger when paired with deliberate action. Each time you act in alignment with a thought that makes you feel safe and strong, you reinforce the belief and neural pattern. Action validates thought, and thought supports action. This cycle is crucial. For instance, if your new thought is, "I can handle this challenge," taking steps to address the challenge demonstrates the truth of the thought. Each success, no matter how small, solidifies your internal sense of safety and strength. Challenges will arise that test the new thought. Situations that trigger fear, doubt, or stress will always appear. These moments are not failures, they are opportunities to practice. The voice of doubt will attempt to dominate, but with consistent practice, you can respond with the thoughts you have created intentionally. Over time, this becomes second nature, and your mind begins to default to a state of calm, strength, and resilience. The process requires patience, repetition, and persistence, but the rewards are profound. Accountability can accelerate progress. Sharing your goals and mental practices with a trusted friend, coach, or mentor provides external reinforcement. Discussing thoughts and responses can provide clarity and insight, allowing you to refine your approach. Feedback reinforces the intentional creation of thoughts and highlights patterns you may not notice on your own. Human interaction, when supportive, can amplify the impact of deliberate thought creation. Mindfulness enhances thought creation. Being fully present in the moment allows you to observe when old, unsafe thoughts arise and replace them with the new, empowering ones. Mindfulness trains you to respond rather than react. It develops awareness of both internal and external triggers, and it strengthens the connection between conscious intention and emotional experience. Practicing mindfulness in daily routines, even in small moments, provides more opportunities to guide thought intentionally. Consistency, patience, and self-compassion are essential. The mind may resist change, and old thought patterns may return. Do not judge yourself for this. Each time you notice and replace a thought, you reinforce a new path. Each time you act in alignment with strength and safety, you reinforce the belief in your own capability. Progress may be gradual, but cumulative practice leads to lasting change. Your inner dialogue is the foundation of how you experience life. Creating new thoughts that make you feel safe and strong is not about avoiding reality or pretending problems do not exist. It is about giving your mind the tools it needs to handle challenges effectively. By repeatedly producing thoughts that instill calmness, security, and strength, you train your mind to operate from a place of competence and clarity. Your emotions align with your actions, and your behavior becomes consistent with the strongest version of yourself. The process is ongoing. Daily practice of observation, creation, reinforcement, and action gradually shifts your default mental state. Thoughts that once caused fear or weakness are replaced by thoughts that generate calm and empowerment. You develop resilience, confidence, and the ability to respond rather than react. Over time, creating thoughts that make you feel safe and strong becomes automatic, and your mind becomes a reliable ally rather than a source of doubt. In the end, the ability to consciously create thoughts is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. Every moment offers an opportunity to choose how you want to feel, how you want to act, and how you want to respond. By paying attention, practicing consistently, and reinforcing positive, empowering thoughts, you build a mind that serves you. You create an internal environment that makes you feel secure,
confident, and ready to handle whatever life presents. The strength and safety you cultivate inside your mind extend into every area of your life, guiding your decisions, shaping your actions, and influencing the reality you experience. When you commit to this practice daily, your mind becomes a fortress of clarity and strength. Fear loses its grip, doubt diminishes, and uncertainty no longer paralyzes. You are not passively reacting to life, you are actively shaping your inner world, and as your thoughts stabilize, your actions follow. Over time, what started as intentional thought creation transforms into a natural state of resilience, confidence, and calm. The power to feel safe and strong comes from within, and by cultivating it intentionally, you unlock the true potential of your mind.
Chapter 8. Learn to quiet your mind instead of fighting it. Your mind is constantly active, running thoughts in the background like a radio that never turns off. Many people spend their lives trying to control these thoughts, pushing back against them, judging them, or attempting to force them into submission. This approach often creates more tension than relief. Fighting the mind does not work because the mind is designed to think, to respond to stimuli, and to generate ideas and concerns automatically. When you struggle against it, you create friction and resistance, which only amplifies stress and anxiety. Instead, learning to quiet your mind allows you to observe without judgment, to release tension, and to act from clarity instead of reaction. Quieting the mind is not about suppressing thought or pretending it doesn't exist. It is about changing your relationship with your thoughts so that you are not controlled by them, and so that your energy is available for focus, decision-making, and purposeful action. The first step in quieting your mind is awareness. Notice when your thoughts are racing, when worry begins to dominate, or when your mind drifts to unproductive concerns. Many people fail to recognize the moment their mind begins to spiral because it feels normal. Observation is powerful because it creates a separation between you and your thoughts. Instead of being consumed by them, you can see them for what they are. Patterns of thinking, not fact. When you label thoughts as thoughts rather than truths, you reduce their emotional power and create space for calmness. Next, focus on your breath. Breathing is a simple yet profound tool for quieting the mind. When you bring attention to your breath, you anchor yourself in the present moment. Inhaling and exhaling deeply and deliberately signals to your body and mind that it is safe to slow down. The rhythm of breathing interrupts the constant chatter and gives your thoughts a chance to settle. It is not about controlling what you think, but about providing your mind with a foundation of calm, which allows observation and clarity to emerge naturally. Physical relaxation complements mental quieting. Tension in the body often mirrors tension in the mind. Notice areas of tightness, whether in the shoulders, jaw, or chest. Release them deliberately while keeping your focus gentle and steady. Relaxation is not about forcing calm, it is about creating conditions where the mind can quiet itself naturally. The more you practice connecting physical relaxation with mental stillness, the easier it becomes to shift from mental noise to clarity when life becomes stressful or chaotic. Mindfulness practice is essential in developing the skill of quieting the mind. This involves observing thoughts as they arise without judgment or attachment. Imagine your thoughts as clouds passing through the sky. They appear, they move, and they dissipate on their own. You do not need to chase them or push them away. The key is noticing them and allowing them to exist without reacting. This trains your mind to respond with awareness rather than reaction, which reduces anxiety and mental fatigue over time. Journaling can also support quieting your mind. Writing down persistent thoughts allows them to leave your mind and exist on paper. By externalizing concerns, your mind is less burdened by repeated rumination. You can revisit the journal to see patterns, but the act of writing itself provides mental relief. It is a form of active release, demonstrating that thoughts are temporary and manageable, not permanent dictates of your reality. Visualization is another effective technique. Picture a calm, quiet space within your mind. Imagine thoughts entering and leaving without resistance or attachment. This mental exercise strengthens the brain's ability to maintain calmness even when external circumstances are stressful. Over time, this becomes an automatic response. The mind begins to settle more quickly because it has practiced stillness in controlled settings. Visualization is training for the mind, preparing it to function with clarity under pressure. Learning to accept rather than resist thoughts is crucial. Many people create internal conflict by judging themselves for having certain thoughts. Thoughts such as worry, self-doubt, or fear are often treated as enemies. Fighting them increases stress and reduces your ability to act effectively. Acceptance does not mean agreement or inaction. It means recognizing that thoughts exist and allowing them to pass naturally. When you stop struggling against thoughts, the mind naturally quiets and space opens for rational thinking and decision-making. Establishing a routine that encourages quiet reflection reinforces this skill. Daily practices such as meditation, breathing exercises, or quiet reflection periods teach your mind to settle predictably. The consistency of routine signals to the brain that calm and clarity are safe and familiar, reducing resistance over time. Regular practice is more powerful than sporadic effort because it rewires the mind to function effectively under stress. Sensory focus enhances mental quieting. Engaging your senses intentionally brings attention to the present moment. Notice sounds, textures, smells, or visual details around you. When your attention moves to sensory input rather than constant internal dialogue, the mind is naturally quieted. This technique is especially effective in high-stress moments because it redirects energy from anxious thought loops to grounded perception, creating stability in both mind and body. Thought substitution can also help. When certain thoughts trigger stress or noise, replace them with neutral or calming alternatives. For example, instead of dwelling on failure or worry, focus on practical next steps or repeat simple affirmations that anchor you. This is not about creating unrealistic optimism, it is about directing mental energy in a way that supports clear thinking and productive action. Limiting external stimulation is another powerful approach. Overexposure to news, social media, or constant conversation can amplify mental noise. Purposefully creating quiet environments reduces the number of thoughts competing for attention. Silence or controlled stimulation allows the mind to practice stillness. Over time, the mind learns to regulate its own activity rather than being dictated by external chaos. Progressive muscle relaxation complements mental quieting. Systematically tensing and releasing different muscle groups signals the body to let go of tension. This directly affects mental state because the mind and body are interconnected. Reducing physical tension often leads to reduced mental chatter, creating an environment where thoughts can settle naturally. Incorporating this technique regularly strengthens your ability to maintain calm even under pressure. Mindful movement is another method. Practices such as walking slowly with attention to each step, gentle stretching, or yoga reinforce the mind-body connection. Each movement provides an anchor for attention, reducing overactive thought patterns. Physical activity aligned with mindfulness teaches the brain that it is safe to focus on the present rather than get lost in mental noise. Self-compassion is critical during this process. Many people judge themselves harshly for having a busy mind. This judgment itself creates more noise. Approach mental quieting with patience and kindness. Recognize that a busy mind is normal and the goal is not perfection, but skillful management. Each time the mind becomes calm, it reinforces the sense that peace is attainable and natural. Tracking progress helps reinforce skill development. Observe the duration and quality of quiet moments over time.
Notice when you can respond calmly instead of reacting automatically. Celebrate small successes to strengthen the habit. Each observed improvement builds confidence in your ability to manage your mental state effectively. When challenges arise, your mind may resist quieting. Thoughts will return, sometimes stronger than before. The key is persistence. Each time you practice observation, acceptance and redirection, you reinforce new mental pathways. The mind begins to understand that calmness is safe, achievable, and repeatable. The more consistent the practice, the more automatic it becomes. Mental quieting enhances decision-making and problem-solving. When the mind is quiet, clarity emerges. Thoughts are no longer clouded by reactive patterns or emotional turbulence. You can evaluate situations with greater accuracy, respond deliberately, and act with intention. Calm minds are not passive, they are empowered to act from insight rather than compulsion. Integration into daily life solidifies the practice. Moments of waiting, commuting or brief pauses can become opportunities to practice mental quieting. Each instant strengthens your ability to enter calm states quickly and maintain them under pressure. Over time, mental quieting becomes a habitual skill rather than a structured exercise, available whenever needed. Overcoming resistance is part of the process. The mind may protest with restlessness, doubt or frustration. These are normal signs of habit change. Approach them with patience and persistence. Each time you maintain calm despite resistance, you strengthen resilience and reinforce the capacity for sustained mental clarity. Community and guidance can support growth. Learning techniques from mentors, peers, or experienced practitioners provide structure, feedback, and encouragement. Sharing experiences can highlight areas of progress and provide new strategies for maintaining mental quiet. Supportive guidance accelerates skill development and provides accountability. Ultimately, learning to quiet your mind is about reclaiming control over your internal environment. Thoughts will always appear, but they do not have to dictate your emotions or actions. Through awareness, observation, acceptance, sensory focus, and consistent practice, the mind can move from constant noise to calm clarity. When the mind is quiet, you can respond with insight, act decisively, and experience a deeper sense of peace. This skill empowers you to navigate life with strength, focus, and intentionality, transforming the mind from a source of stress into a powerful ally in achieving your goals and living with confidence.
Chapter 9. Practice thinking better instead of trying to be perfect. Perfection is often misunderstood as the ultimate goal, but striving for perfection can create unnecessary pressure and paralyze progress. Many people spend their lives chasing flawlessness in their actions, decisions, and thoughts, only to feel exhausted, frustrated, and inadequate. The truth is, perfection is an illusion. Nobody thinks perfectly, acts perfectly, or achieves outcomes without error. The human mind is naturally complex, prone to mistakes, and constantly evolving. Trying to force perfection leads to overthinking, self-criticism, and fear of failure. Instead of aiming to be perfect, the most effective path to growth is to practice thinking better. Thinking better means cultivating clarity, focus, and constructive reasoning that helps you make sound decisions, navigate challenges, and improve outcomes without being crippled by the expectation of perfection. The first step in thinking better is self-awareness. Notice how your mind approaches problems, evaluates options, and reacts to challenges. Many people are unaware of their habitual thought patterns, which often include judgment, negative assumptions, or over-analysis. Observation is the foundation for improvement. By paying attention to your thoughts, you identify which patterns serve you and which ones hinder you. Awareness allows you to intervene consciously rather than reacting automatically. You begin to see where perfectionism is causing unnecessary stress or preventing progress. Next, focus on practicality. Thinking better involves seeking solutions that work, not solutions that are flawless. Instead of trying to generate the perfect idea or make the perfect decision, ask yourself what will produce a tangible improvement or positive outcome. Practical thinking emphasizes results over image or appearance. For example, in a work project, completing a well-reasoned plan that addresses key needs is more effective than endlessly refining minor details to reach an unattainable standard. Focusing on practicality channels mental energy toward meaningful action, rather than wasted effort. Break complex problems into smaller parts. Perfectionists often feel overwhelmed because they attempt to handle everything simultaneously. Thinking better involves analyzing challenges in manageable steps. Divide tasks, decisions, or goals into achievable portions and approach them sequentially. This reduces mental clutter, increases focus, and allows you to make steady progress. Each small step reinforces confidence and competence, showing that improvement comes from consistent effort rather than flawless execution. Challenge unhelpful beliefs. Many people equate making mistakes with failure or weakness. This mindset fuels perfectionism and hinders better thinking. Recognize that mistakes are part of the learning process. They provide valuable feedback and opportunities for growth. Thinking better means accepting errors as data, adjusting your approach, and moving forward. This perspective transforms mistakes from obstacles into tools for development and reduces fear that paralyzes action. Prioritize clarity over judgment. Perfectionism often comes with harsh self-criticism. Thinking better requires separating judgment from observation. Evaluate situations logically. Ask what information is available and consider alternatives objectively. Avoid labeling yourself or others as good or bad based on imperfection. Clear thinking arises from understanding the facts, identifying options, and making decisions based on what is achievable and reasonable. This method builds confidence and reduces mental tension. Practice mental flexibility. Life rarely unfolds perfectly, and circumstances constantly change. Better thinking requires adaptability. Rigid expectations of perfection limit your ability to respond effectively to new information or challenges. Flexibility allows you to adjust strategies, consider multiple perspectives, and make decisions aligned with current reality. When the mind is flexible, you can innovate, solve problems efficiently, and maintain focus even in unpredictable situations. Set realistic standards. Perfectionism often demands unrealistic benchmarks that are impossible to sustain. Thinking better involves creating standards that push for excellence while remaining attainable. Evaluate your goals, tasks, and expectations, and ensure they are challenging but reasonable. Standards should motivate action, not induce fear or self-doubt. Realistic expectations maintain energy, increase productivity, and encourage steady improvement. Develop a habit of reflection. Thinking better is reinforced through regular review of your decisions, actions, and outcomes. Reflection allows you to recognize what worked, what didn't, and what can be improved. Avoid blaming yourself for imperfection. Instead, focus on insights gained. Reflection strengthens the mind's ability to analyze situations critically and constructively, leading to smarter choices and reduced anxiety about doing things perfectly. Seek feedback intelligently. External perspectives provide valuable information that can improve thinking without fostering perfectionism. Choose mentors, peers, or experts who offer constructive insights and practical guidance. Listening to feedback helps refine ideas, adjust strategies, and enhance outcomes. The goal is improvement rather than flawless performance. Engaging with feedback encourages growth, reduces blind spots,
and strengthens decision-making skills. Emphasize process over outcome. Perfectionism focuses on achieving a perfect end result, which often leads to frustration when reality falls short. Thinking better shifts focus to the quality of the process, the effort applied, and the learning gained. When you value process, every step becomes an opportunity to improve your skills, understanding, and capacity for sound judgment. Outcomes will naturally improve as a byproduct of consistently thoughtful actions. Train your mind to question assumptions. Many unproductive thoughts arise from unquestioned beliefs or automatic judgments. Thinking better requires actively examining assumptions, asking whether they are accurate, and considering alternative viewpoints. This practice enhances clarity, reduces errors, and encourages rational decision-making. Questioning assumptions transforms rigid thinking into a dynamic tool for problem-solving and increases confidence in your choices. Use mental pauses strategically. Thinking better does not mean rushing decisions or overanalyzing endlessly. Pausing allows your mind to collect information, evaluate options, and assess emotions objectively. During a pause, focus on the facts, desired outcomes, and available resources. This technique reduces impulsive decisions driven by fear of imperfection and encourages deliberate, thoughtful action. Integrate habit-based improvement. Thinking better is supported by consistent mental habit. Daily routines, such as planning, reviewing priorities, and setting intentions, guide your mind to focus on effectiveness rather than perfection. Habits reduce reliance on willpower alone and create structure for consistent progress. Over time, habitual thinking strengthens cognitive clarity and decision-making reliability. Manage emotions effectively. Perfectionism often amplifies anxiety, frustration, and self-doubt. Thinking better includes recognizing emotions as data, not directive. Emotions provide insight into priorities, risks, and motivations, but they do not have to dictate actions. Observe your emotional state, label it accurately, and decide consciously how to respond. Emotional awareness paired with rational thinking produces better decisions and reduces mental strain. Embrace iteration. Thinking better is a continuous process. Rarely is the first attempt flawless, and expecting it to be creates unnecessary stress. Approach tasks as experiments, where each attempt provides feedback for refinement. Iteration allows growth through action and reflection without the pressure of perfection. Each cycle strengthens your mental skills, enhances results, and builds confidence. Balance speed and accuracy. Thinking better requires finding the optimal pace for decision-making and action. Too fast can lead to mistakes. Too slow can lead to missed opportunities. Evaluate the situation, determine the level of precision required, and proceed accordingly. Practicing this balance develops a practical mindset that values progress and quality, without obsessing over flawlessness. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Recognize and acknowledge improvements in thought patterns, problem-solving, and decision-making. Celebrating progress reinforces positive mental habits, encourages continued effort, and reduces the pressure associated with perfectionism. Over time, celebrating progress cultivates a mindset that values growth and resilience. Integrate real-world learning. Apply new thinking approaches to actual situations daily. Experiencing the impact of better thought in work, relationships, or personal challenges reinforces its value. The mind learns more from action than theory alone. Each success demonstrates the effectiveness of thinking better and gradually displaces the need for perfection as a motivator. Commit to lifelong practice. Thinking better is not a one-time event. It is a continuous journey of awareness, reflection, adjustment, and application. The mind improves with consistent practice, and habits solidify through repetition. Over time, the focus shifts from impossible standards of perfection to a sustainable approach of intelligent, constructive, and resilient thinking. Ultimately, practicing thinking better, instead of striving for perfection, creates freedom. Your mind becomes a tool for solving problems, managing emotions, and achieving goals without unnecessary stress or self-criticism. You respond to challenges with clarity, make decisions with confidence, and take action with purpose. By shifting your focus from being perfect to thinking better, you unlock mental capacity, improve effectiveness, and cultivate a life of growth, resilience, and achievement. Every moment offers the opportunity to think better. Each thought can be shaped, refined, and directed toward outcomes that serve your life and values. By practicing deliberate, realistic, and constructive thinking daily, you build a mind capable of navigating uncertainty, solving problems effectively, and thriving without the burden of perfection. Over time, the cumulative effect of these small improvements transforms not only the quality of your decisions, but the quality of your life.
Chapter 10. Decide every morning how you want your mind to work. Each morning is an opportunity to take control of your mind before the day begins. Too often, people wake up and allow their thoughts to be dictated by habit, stress, or external influences. The moment you open your eyes, your mind is like a blank slate, and the way you choose to think in those first few minutes sets the tone for the rest of the day. Deciding how you want your mind to work is not about forcing positivity or ignoring challenges. It is about making a conscious choice about your focus, your approach, and your mindset. It is about taking responsibility for the internal environment that will guide every decision, every action, and every interaction. Start by becoming aware of the first thoughts that enter your mind. Many people are unaware of how their mind drifts toward worry, doubt, or distraction immediately upon waking. Awareness is crucial because it allows you to intercept these automatic thought patterns. Notice if your mind begins to dwell on past mistakes or future anxieties. Observing without judgment is the first step in gaining control. Recognize that these initial thoughts are habitual and do not have to dictate the day. Once you are aware, set a deliberate intention for your mind. Ask yourself what kind of thinking you want to cultivate today. Do you want clarity and focus, calmness and patience, or energy and creativity? Naming the quality you wish your mind to embody directs attention and primes your brain for productive action. Intentions act as a mental compass, giving direction to thoughts before external demands and distractions pull you off course. Next, use a short morning routine to reinforce your choice. Simple practices such as deep breathing, stretching, or writing down intentions can anchor your mind in the desired state. Physical movement signals the body that it is time to activate energy and focus, while intentional breathing calms the nervous system and promotes mental clarity. Writing intentions makes them tangible, increasing the likelihood that your mind will follow through on the chosen direction. Focus on controlling input. In the first moments of the day, avoid immediately checking your phone, social media, or news updates. These external inputs can hijack your mind and trigger reactive thinking. Instead, prioritize internal guidance over external influence. Choose to feed your mind with constructive information, affirmations, or purposeful reflection that supports the mindset you want to cultivate. Early control of input sets a mental precedent that lasts throughout the day. Derealization enhances morning decision-making for the mind. Imagine the challenges, interactions, and tasks you will face today. See yourself responding with calm clarity and efficiency. Visualizing success and effective thought patterns primes your brain to act in alignment with your intention. This is not daydreaming. It is preparing the mind to respond skillfully rather than reacting habitually. The more vivid and detailed the visualization, the more powerful the effect on mental readiness. Establish priorities for thought. Decide which areas of life or work deserve focused attention. Morning clarity allows you to allocate mental energy intentionally, rather than letting scattered concerns dominate. Write down the top priorities or mentally rehearse the key tasks for the day. This creates a roadmap for thinking, reduces overwhelm, and strengthens the mind's ability to stay on track. Affirm your chosen mindset. Speak or think statements that reinforce the mental state you want. Affirmations, such as "I will approach challenges calmly and clearly," or "I will focus on what I can control and act decisively," anchor the mind in deliberate patterns. Repetition strengthens neural pathways, making it easier to maintain the chosen mindset as the day progresses. Affirmations should be concise, meaningful, and aligned with real intentions, not empty slogans. Train your mind to respond rather than react. Deciding how your mind works in the morning prepares you to observe incoming thoughts and situations without being controlled by them. When challenges arise, your mind is less likely to default to habitual negativity or stress. Instead, you can evaluate options, prioritize solutions, and respond with intention. Morning preparation builds resilience and reduces the emotional turbulence that often derails productivity. Integrate mental pauses throughout the day. The morning decision sets the tone, but reinforcement is necessary. Take brief moments to check in with your mind, assess alignment with your intentions, and redirect as needed. Pausing prevents drift back into reactive patterns and strengthens consistency and thought quality. Mental pauses can be as brief as a few breaths, a moment of reflection, or a short mindfulness practice. Manage expectations realistically. Choosing how your mind works is not about eliminating difficulty or stress. Life will present challenges regardless of intention. The goal is to equip the mind to handle situations. Constructive morning decision-making prepares you to accept reality, focus on actionable steps, and maintain clarity under pressure. This approach transforms obstacles into manageable components rather than overwhelming threats. Observe emotional triggers. By deciding how your mind will operate, you can better anticipate situations that evoke strong reactions. Notice patterns of anger, fear, or frustration. Recognize early signs and decide how to respond deliberately. This preemptive approach prevents emotions from dictating thought processes and enables consistent mental performance throughout the day. Create a mental checklist. Identify habits, attitudes, or behaviors that support the desired mindset. Include reminders to focus on clarity, patience, gratitude, or assertiveness. Reviewing this checklist each morning reinforces intention and provides a framework for guiding thought and action. The checklist acts as a structure to maintain consistency even when distractions arise. Incorporate gratitude and perspective. Starting the day by acknowledging aspects of your life you value or feel appreciative for shifts the mind toward constructive patterns. Gratitude reduces automatic negativity and primes the brain to approach situations with openness and balance. Perspective keeps minor challenges in context, preventing unnecessary stress from consuming mental energy. Practice self-compassion. Deciding how your mind will work includes accepting that distractions, mistakes, or lapses will occur. Treat these moments as part of the process rather than failures. Self-compassion reduces the internal struggle and allows the mind to return quickly to its intended state. A patient and kind approach enhances mental stability and reinforces consistent performance. Reinforce physical and mental connection. Nutrition, hydration, and physical movement influence cognitive function. A morning decision about your mind should include habits that support energy, alertness, and clarity. A well-prepared body enables a well-prepared mind. Simple practices like a balanced breakfast, water intake, or brief exercise create conditions for the mind to operate optimally. Limit multitasking at the start of the day.
early distractions, fragment attention, and reduce mental efficiency. Focus on one task or thought stream at a time, aligned with the mindset you have chosen. Concentration enhances productivity and ensures your mental energy is directed intentionally rather than scattered. Practice reflection in the evening. While the morning sets intentions, review at the end of the day how well your mind followed the plan. Note successes, deviations, and areas for improvement. Reflection reinforces awareness and strengthens the ability to set intentions that the mind can sustain in the future. Consistent evaluation transforms intention into habit and habit into skill. Use reminders or cues. Place visual or auditory prompts that help recall your morning decision throughout the day. Notes, phone alerts, or environmental signals can gently redirect your mind when it drifts. These reminders maintain alignment with your intended mental state and prevent habitual reactive thinking from taking over. Embrace consistency. The power of deciding each morning how your mind will work compounds over time. The more consistent the practice, the stronger the mental pathways, and the more automatic constructive thinking becomes. Consistency transforms intentional decision-making into a natural part of daily life, reducing effort while increasing effectiveness. Understand that control is a choice. You cannot control every event or external circumstance, but you can control how your mind interprets and responds. Morning intention empowers you to choose focus, calm, and clarity regardless of external chaos. This choice separates proactive individuals from those dominated by circumstance and habitual reaction. Recognize the cumulative impact. Each morning decision influences every interaction, thought, and action throughout the day. Over weeks and months, this cumulative effect shapes long-term habits, emotional stability, and decision-making quality. Small daily practices compound to create a resilient, adaptable, and effective mind. Finally, integrate purpose. Decide not only how your mind will work, but why. Connect your mental intention to meaningful goals, values, or aspirations. Purpose aligns thought patterns with action and provides motivation to maintain consistency. A clear purpose anchors the mind in intention rather than distraction, ensuring that each day builds toward the life you desire. By beginning each morning with a conscious decision about how your mind will operate, you take control of your internal environment. You set a foundation of clarity, focus, and resilience that carries through challenges, interactions, and responsibility. Over time, this practice transforms the mind into a reliable tool for decision-making, creativity, and calm action. Choosing how your mind works is the ultimate act of self-mastery, empowering you to navigate life with clarity, confidence, and purpose. Each day becomes an opportunity to practice intentional thought, and with consistent effort, your mind becomes your greatest ally in achieving personal and professional success, emotional balance, and meaningful growth.